in high school. They didn't look like they were 16 years old. A lot of them probably, by the time they were seniors, a lot of them looked like they were almost 30 by today's standards. So, but then again, if you look at a high school yearbook today, and you see the senior, you're wondering if you're looking at a 12th grader, a high school senior, or you're looking at a 6th grader. A lot of really. That's one of the things about Movember. They may have to change that a little bit because there are a lot of young men. I was kind of in that. I couldn't grow a full beard until I was 30, and there are a lot of young men in their early and mid 20s. They can't even grow a bad teenage mustache. So this Movember, I've got the Movember mustache rocking right now, and yes, it's itchy, and I can't wait until Saturday to shave it. If you don't know what Movember is, just go to instead of November with an N, it's Movember with an M. Go to Movember.org. That'll tell you all about Movember. And it's kind of the equivalent of the men's equivalent to women's health and breast cancer awareness in October. So do that. And next year, join us for Movember if you're a guy in growing your mustache and facial hair. Yeah, you're probably going to freak out because it's been I'm still not that great at growing facial hair because this has been 3 weeks and it still looks like I'm a teenager. Trying to grow a bad teenage mustache. It's really, it hasn't gotten really long and thick and everything. And I thought after all these years of shaving it would, but it isn't. But, just a little off topic there, but, don't think that I'm dissing people simply because they're gay. That is not the case. I mentioned the straights as well. Talked about how bad they can be too. So just chill out with that stuff. And we get into this stuff about being racist or homophobic, whatever, way too easily. And you know what it does? It does a disservice to Americans when we do that, because when the real thing rears its ugly head, we've been desensitized to it. So we need to cut out the false. It's like the little boy crying wolf. Well, every time you turn around and you cry racism or homophobia, when it really happens, nobody's going to believe you. And I think we're starting to see that. Because the Democrats are always out there tossing around this racist crap. If you oppose Obama, you're racist. Not because you don't like his policies, you're just a racist. Well, I think Americans are getting sick of it. They're getting desensitized to it. So now it's getting to the point where somebody says racism, and they say, I'm not a racist, so go shut up. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't believe you. And so when there is really some racism going on, it's made fun of simply because of the fact they've cried wolf too many times. That's my take on the whole thing, and I think it's the truth. Orrin Hatch says to Newsmax that Democrats are ready to go over the fiscal cliff. I believe they are. Senator Orrin Hatch tells Newsmax that Democrats are willing to allow the country to go over the so-called fiscal cliff so they can then blame Republicans for everything that's wrong. Right. That is absolutely correct. They've already said it. There have been some prominent Democrats who said, I'm willing to go over the fiscal. Harry Reid has said it. So it's kind of when Republicans, I know we conservatives are lamenting the fact that some Republicans are saying I might consider raising taxes, but we got to get some budget cuts and real meaningful budget cuts along with raising taxes to raise revenue at the same time, and that's not what Harry Reid and the liberal Democrats want to hear. And the whole point is, you know what? I say go ahead, go along with it. Say, yes, we'll agree to tax increases. It's a bad idea, but let's say go along with it. Plus, we want these meaningful budget cuts, real cuts, and not in defense. And watch the Democrats line up to throw it away. and say no. And then blame the Republicans for being evil, dictatorial, mean, uncaring. No, we're only trying to save our country and our physical health. But that's not what Democrats are not about helping you. When are you going to grow up and learn that lesson? They're about remaining in power. That's it. Because if they really cared about you, if they really cared about their constituents, they wouldn't do half the crap that they do. It's all about garnering votes so they stay in power and keep the money train rolling. After, 8 out of 10 of the wealthiest people in Congress right now are Democrats. Although they would like you to believe that all the rich people are Republican. They try. That's what they try to come up with. Republicans, that's all they want. They're for the rich. Because all Republicans are rich, and that's what they want to go for. They want to make laws that only benefit the rich. In the meantime, all we got is a bunch of rich Democrats in there, and some of them ultra rich, like Nancy Pelosi, who, by the way, could afford her own plane, but forces we taxpayers to pay for her flights, or at least when she was, Speaker of the House. Really? She was flying Air Force 2 or Air Force 3, whatever it was. So, no, there's no Air Force 3. The Speaker doesn't get a jet unless she buys it herself, which she could afford to do. So, Hatch is right. But you know what? Knowing their plan and exposing their plan, unfortunately, isn't going to do a damn bit of good. I guarantee you it won't. Because they've got a willing mob to spread their stupid lies around the globe, not just the country, called the lamestream media. Willing participants. They're just, the lamestream media is just dumb. They're dumb. They think that they're on the right side, helping, correct side by me saying right. They think they're on the correct side of helping the less fortunate. So because they're on the correct side of helping the less fortunate in this country, because the United States is just so unfair to so many people that the game is rigged. Of course, they're full of hypocrites. The left is full of hypocrites. Because how many rich people do we have? These business people, they shouldn't be. This guy, this millionaire business owner, or this millionaire is running this company. He makes $1 million and he makes like 57,000 times more than the lowest paid janitor in his company. Well, I don't know about you, but how much does Katie Couric earn? And all those other lamestream media personalities, what do they do to earn their millions of dollars every year? Not a whole hell of a lot. In fact, they don't even do real journalism. And yet they pull down millions. But that's okay. They're not paying maximum in taxes, but that's okay. They're hypocrites, but they don't realize it because they're too dumb. And they think that they're helping you when they're not. They think they're being compassionate. Oh, it's just, we need to get the rich people to pay. Well, we know that is, if you just ran the numbers, the raw numbers, the actual numbers, the real numbers, taxing rich people more is not going to solve any of our fiscal problems on a governmental side. It's not. It's not going to make one bit of difference. Except for the fact, if you give them more money, we know from past history over the past 50 or 60 years that if you give our federal government, if you give any government in this country more money, whether they need it or not, they're going to spend it. So Orrin Hatch is absolutely, absolutely correct that Democrats are willing to go over the physical cliff so they can absolutely blame Republicans. And they know that the lamestream media is going to willingly go along with this lie. Yeah, they absolutely. And then, I think the Republicans kind of see this coming. They're saying, we'll compromise. We're going to compromise, and let's see if you do. And they won't. But that's not going to help them all that much, because what's going to happen is that Republicans will compromise, Democrats will not, and then they'll blame the Republicans for not compromising enough. That's the way it's always worked. And the mainstream media will run with it. And they'll blame the Republicans for not compromising enough. In the meanwhile, Democrats didn't compromise at all. But that's okay. Remember, compromising to a liberal is not a Democrat moving to the center. No, not at all. But it's a Republican crossing the center aisle. That's a compromise. No, that's a compromise to Democratic socialists. Yeah. Look at hey, I'm gonna reach across the aisle to you, Mr. I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative. I'm gonna reach across the aisle to you, Mr. Democrat. But the Democrat looked back at me and said, "Don't reach. Come on over." No. I'm here to compromise. I want us to meet in the middle. And, you got the good old boy network. Oh, son, that's not a compromise. In order for me to compromise, you got to come onto this side. That's the truth. You step over that center line into the left, boy, and that's where we're compromised. But Democrat hasn't compromised a damn thing. That Republican sure has, and he's been duped again. I don't know how many times Republicans are we like to think that people are better than that, but I don't know how many times you can constantly get, be duped by people like that before you finally get it through your thick skull that they're not out to help anybody. Yeah, that's just the way it is, folks. The Democrats are not out to help you and me. And when I say you and me, I don't mean constitutional conservatives. I mean, they're not out to help the little guy. Their constituency, the regular citizens of this, they're not out for us. They're out for themselves. Believe it or not. And I know there are a lot of Republicans that are that way too. They're out. But that's the reason why you can't depend on government to do anything for you. The only thing government should be for is keeping the peace, law, making sure that we have a stable society by law, by good, honest, decent laws that make sense, and keeping the national security. That's what our federal government is for, national security. And making sure that the law of the land, the Constitution, and how states interact with one another is on a fair and evil keel. It isn't about this over-bloated, multi-trillion-dollar government that we have today. That is not what the Founding Fathers had intended. We know this because they wrote about it, they spoke about it in their speeches, and they put it in the Constitution. This is not the government they intended. But it's the government that, you notice out in California, California is now, what is their income tax rate is going up to 13% or something like that now? How did it get? Some people will ask, well, how did it get there? Well, Californians voted for it. That's how it got there. They voted for this. We voted for this government. We got the government that we deserve because we got the government that we voted for and keep voting for. So now we got people. At some point, people are going to, people are complaining about Medicare and Medicaid, and soon when Obamacare really starts to hit, people are going to complain about Obamacare. Now, and then when you go back and you dig into their past and you ask them, okay, when Obamacare was just coming online, who did you vote for? Well, I voted for Obama. Well, you voted for this then. Well, no, I didn't want that. Well, you voted for the people who wanted you to force you to have Obamacare. You cannot tell me that you support Obama and not Obamacare. Impossible. Impossible. It doesn't work that way. If you vote for the jackass and the jackass wins, well, then you deserve to get kicked in the ass by the jackass.
On the battlefield, there's a